it is really great to see you here. It's particularly good to have visitors from Philippines and Indonesia, and to have representation from the Indonesian Embassy and from the New Zealand High Commission. It was a privilege and an exciting privilege for Transparency International Papua New Guinea to be asked to assist, start this process, to assist mount this workshop. One of the great challenges that the idea of improved governance faces is the challenge of having government and civil society realise that it's possible, that things can get better and do get better when more and more people try to make sure they get better. Here in Papua New Guinea, we've been challenged over the years since independence, and to be honest, challenged well before independence with issues of governance. Some of the old people will tell you times were good when we had a colonial government. The reality is that they weren't that good, and there are many examples of things that were really quite bad in those days as well. We've been struggling as a country to come to terms with all the things that we need to pay attention to provide fair, open, we've had a change of technician. I can speak louder if that helps. Okay, let's try it that way. We've faced the challenges since 75, and we continue to face the challenges. We know that we're a country that is going to continue to improve. Those of us who represent civil society are not the government's opposition. We in fact represent people who know that it is our government, and we're determined to work with our government as things get better. And that's one of the joys of being asked to open a workshop on open government, because it's clear that that is the intention of the Open Government Program. And but happily we fit in that. Looking around, well, we certainly have Samson Gumbel from the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade here, representing the Acting Secretary of that department, Mr. Bill. Welcome. And I dropped your card, sir. O'Connor, from the Indonesian Embassy. And again, it is great, as I mentioned, to have representation from the diplomatic mission, and from the place where the organisation of this particular meeting originated. From the Philippines, we have Asian Development Bank, and is there someone else? Just the Asian Development Bank?
There are two.
Okay. Sorry, both of you. Thank you for being here. To the participants, and knowing that there will be more arriving as the day proceeds, thank you for being here. Thank you for wanting to know what this is about, and for taking the time to think about how we can use this opportunity to make things change. It's clear that things don't happen quickly. It's clear also that a movement that was only started in 2011 with 9 countries, if I remember correctly, 8 countries, and has now grown to something in the order of 6 in a very short time. It's clear that it's new, it's clear that it's finding its way, and it's clear that one country after another is seeing the opportunity to join and be part of and get accreditation, and we hope to be one of those. Our foreign minister went to Bali with Samson, I believe, and spoke of the intention of the government of Papua New Guinea to become part of this movement. And we were delighted that happened. We know that these things are not easy at the political level. We're looking forward to the support that's coming from civil society, from the various arms of government, and from the political arm to bring about these changes. I read yesterday a couple of quotes, but one of them that comes to mind was, which I can't remember precisely, but basically was the former Secretary of State in the United States, saying that when you don't have open government, when you don't have civil society engaged in the government, when things are secretive and hidden, then you have very little chance of getting full development for a country. And that's, as we in Transparency International have seen since our formation here in 1997, and what we've been working to overcome since 1997. The Constitution of Papua New Guinea, actually section Article 51, I think, if you want to, if you've got it in your pocket and want to check. The Constitution of Papua New Guinea has a section which guarantees freedom of information. It says every citizen has the right to reasonable access to official documents. That's enshrined in the Constitution we adopted in 1975. The reality is every citizen does not have reasonable access to the information. I could hang quite a lot of dirty washing on the line right now if I started to give you a list of the problems that we have in accessing information. But one that I'm facing right now is simply trying to get the Lands Department to provide a document showing ownership of land going back now over 20 years. Still can't get the document. We're entitled to reasonable access, but we're challenged getting reasonable access, and that continues. Civil society in Guinea is working with government to try to bring about change. In a few days, I'm thinking what's the date today, but anyway, it's very close. On the 3rd of December, only a few days away, the Transparency International Corruption Perception Index will be released in Berlin. Once again, we expect to find that the international perception of corruption in Papua New Guinea places us in company we would prefer not to be placed. We always feel that we're much better than what the index tells us, and we are annually disappointed to find that we haven't gone up in the eyes of the world, but we annually remind ourselves we are going to get much better. I look across that index and see what's happened, for example, over the years to Indonesia and the changes that have taken place in the international perception of Indonesia. And when I see that, when I see some of the other countries as well, I know that we're going to do much better in the future. One day I asked a New Zealander, how is it that you are always at the top of that list, like the most clean. What is it about New Zealand that makes you most clean? And the fellow said, well, first of all, remember, we don't feel so clean. We look around and see corruption everywhere the whole time, so keep that in mind. And secondly, he said, the very fact that we have a Freedom of Information Act and we fight to keep it, we make the public service accountable to this act. If somebody asks a reasonable question, they have to get an answer, and the public servant is kept accountable for making sure that information is available. Because the information is available, the public is aware of what's going on. Because the public is aware of what's going on, individuals within society and members of government can set about making changes. And this fellow, who actually was the former Governor General of New Zealand, saw that as being key to the change that allows them to hold such a high place. From here, I'm heading across to another meeting, unfortunately, this morning. I agreed to an invitation to the launching of the Papua New Guinea Human Development Report. Now that's another event we look forward to each year with a little bit of foreboding, because we're conscious that our record on human development is not as good as it should be. We fall behind in many ways that we shouldn't be falling behind. However, we'll be reminded again and again, we will go forward and try to make a difference. One of the things that I'm reminded of every time this happens is that there is a direct link between the Human Development Index and the Corruption Perception Index. That if we don't govern ourselves well, we're very unlikely to make the steps forward that are required to improve human development in the country. And as we're all after improvement of human development, we need to focus on open development. One of my former bosses was actually supposed to be here today to welcome you, and I understand that he's been tied up in another engagement. We're looking forward to in a couple of days at least the Minister will leave you. But the person who looks after the issue of open government in the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade is Samson Yabon. He's the director of the Asia ASEAN Bilateral Division, and he's been asked to welcome me on behalf of the Department